concern, Clint, it's sort of secondary to you about whether Iowa's first and New Hampshire's second. It's actually about you can't run any sort of election process that isn't secure, isn't properly tested, doesn't have proper paper backups. Let's just solve the easy to solve problems first.
Right. So once you put technology into the mix, you're adding a lot of variables. So what's the idea of technology? Oh, we can record easier and faster. We can aggregate the results. But each piece of that technology, each piece of that process makes it a little bit more complicated, which allows for not just changing the votes, manipulating the votes, or loss of data, a denial of service attack. Suddenly the power goes out at a polling place and those people don't get to vote. It also makes it so that disinformation can creep in every piece of that chain. Was my vote counted? Was it aggregated? Was it reported correctly? How do I know this? And how do I prove it?
A point that you bring up, and Roger McNamee, who was on yesterday, brings up all the time, is that every time one of those things happen, it sows doubt in the mind of the participant. And really, the gain for bad actors is to keep you home, to keep you out of the process. We did see lower than normal turnout in Iowa. I just spoke to the New Hampshire Democratic Party chair. They're expecting not to have record-breaking turnout on Tuesday. But the loss of faith in the system is highly erosive to democracy.
That's right. The whole goal, whether it's Russian disinformation we talked about last election or this round, is to make people not have confidence in the elected institutions, the people that are representing those institutions, just to sow doubt. You don't even have to offer facts. And we saw that a lot after Iowa. All sorts of confusion about what was going on. And so when you look at preparing for whether it's New Hampshire, Nevada that's coming up, some of these other places, one, keep it simple. We've talked about paper ballot backups how many times on this show? People trust that piece of paper whenever they mark on it. Once it's submitted, there's something tangible.
Right. The only piece of technology typically involved with paper ballots is a simple scanning machine that does not have to have any relationship to the internet whatsoever.
That's right.
Just a counting machine.
It creates a verifiable audit trail that people have confidence in. So just keep it simple and then have a good communication program. What we saw this week was extremely poor communication in terms of a response, right? They had trouble. They had a backup system. It didn't work well either. Just come out and say, well, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. Restore confidence.
Because you had 2-3 days of everybody wondering, are you guys capable of running an election?
Right.
And so that, again, sows doubt. And there are definitely voters in New Hampshire who are sitting here thinking, you know, they're going to mess this thing up again.
And partial results, releasing partial results automatically brings the follow-on question, why can't I have the other results? Is there something wrong with it? Do you not know what those other results are? Are they lost? Are they confused? So when we look at all of this, one, who are the users? If they're bringing in technology, do you have user training? Are you rehearsing with this stuff? Most of these people are volunteers that are working these polls.
Well, in Nevada, we have the Nevada Democrats are debuting a new iPad tool to calculate the math on the caucus day. A volunteer quoted in an article said, we were not given the program to work with or practice with. All we have were a few slides to look at while they told us that they're planning to develop it further. Planning to develop it further. These things in 2 weeks.
That's right.
What are you talking about?
This so reminds me of my time in the military, right? Like, you bring in new technology. We don't take it to battle. We don't do anything unless we have rehearsals. We exercises with it. Everyone's comfortable with it. And then we always have an immediate manual backup because you expect that technology to fail. Does everybody know it? These folks right here that are running these elections, they're giving up their time usually. They're volunteers. They don't have time to go to multi-day trainings. They don't get a lot of practice on this stuff. So set them up for success.
No reason to not have technology, but we can figure this out, and we have to make sure it's not hackable. By the way, you think that there should be a lottery to determine which states go first. That would be an interesting concept.
Yeah. Look, the country has changed dramatically. You had that segment there about Jimmy Carter. The caucus way back then, 13 delegates. I mean, that set the tone to where he ends up with the nomination. Look, the United States is a much larger country. There's a lot of demand for transparency, more people wanting to vote and know that their vote counts. A much, much more diverse United States than men and women. You know, there's more women voters now really than men voters. So let's mix it up a little bit. Let's get a lot of other states in there, especially whenever we're campaigning 365, 24/7 between each election.
Clint, I know you've been a good friend to this hour of TV, and I hope that will continue.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, my friend.
Whenever you need me.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.